Hello and welcome to episode number 12 of the Wise Guys podcast. I'm your host, John Tortorelli, with Brandon Capizzello and Justin Ray. Today in the NBA, we've got a lot of new stuff that's interesting to talk about. I'm more than excited to discuss. Jason Tatum responds to the Kevin Durant Boston rumors. Miles Bridges, we're going to have to discuss him, unfortunately. Draymond Green and his future with the Golden State Warriors. And last but not least, we're going to kick this thing off, or finish it with Check It Up. How you guys doing today?
Feeling great, man. Ready to go. What is this? Episode 12, you said, right?
Yeah, I mean, we're already 6 weeks in.
Greatest number of all time, number 12.
Oh.
I'm feeling great. I'm rocking and rolling. Let's get this train going.
So it was Monday night around 2:30 a.m. for the people that are Somniacs or night owls. I think that's what the word is. Somniac, right?
People that stay up late.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or can't sleep. They got to see the breaking news by Shams, and I think Woj was part of the discussion, that Kevin Durant has been checked in on by the Boston Celtics. Brad Stevens offered up Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and a future draft pick to Sean Marks in return for Durant. And now I want to give my brief take. So many teams around the league are doing this. I don't think it's actually they're calling Brooklyn saying this. I think it's really just leaks and rumors where Brad Stevens says, this is what I'm willing to give up, and I don't think there's actually a legitimate trade discussion between these two teams. But this is a rumor that popped up because the Nets are trying to gain as much leverage as they can, and what better way to do that than to create some instability in Boston? Justin, you're big on Jaylen Brown. I've heard some steaming hot actually, Jaylen Brown takes from you in the past. What do you think about this trade from Boston's perspective? Would you even do the first offer that I just talked about?
I mean, so honestly, I'm going to just bounce a question right back at you guys because I was just thinking about this morning. Does a duo of Tatum and KD, is that better does it make them that much better than Tatum and Jaylen Brown?
In the now, 2022?
In the immediate future. I know, how old is KD?
34.
34. Okay, so in the immediate future, what duo would you rather have going into the next 2 seasons?
Next 2 seasons, I would rather have KD.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, for the immediate future, obviously KD, but when you take into account how much they're giving up, like their starting lineup would still be one of the best in the league, if not the best. But if you look at that bench, they would be losing a lot of that depth.
One thing I'll say though is, while you're only losing Derek White from that reserves, the issue is Kevin Durant is a player who in Brooklyn couldn't stay available. And for the Celtics, Jaylen Brown is a player who could. He played over 60 games this last season. I think in this stage of KD's career, he can't give you over 50 games. Mm. And for the Celtics, you're playing an Eastern Conference where seeding does matter. There's about 4 or 5 teams that are legitimate contenders. I'm throwing Philadelphia in the mix. Still got Miami there. And so how many games are available in the regular season, how many games you can win then matters a lot more. And I think you look at Jaylen Brown, he's just 25 years old. There's an 8-year gap between those two players. While Kevin Durant can help elevate your ceiling a little bit more in the postseason, I think long-term, Jaylen Brown gives you a better shot to become a dynasty. And for the Celtics, you're not looking to just get one quick championship. I think it's number 18. You're looking to win multiple. And more importantly, you want to keep together a wing tandem that every team around the league is trying to replicate, and none of them have been able to even succeed in drafting one of those two guys, let alone 2 in back-to-back drafts.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. I that's why, thinking about it, I would prefer if Boston would just hold on to Jaylen Brown. It's not many. It doesn't come around too often when you got that two talented forwards on your team that you can just build around. You know, these guys both play defense. They play elite defense, elite offense. We saw it in the postseason. They just led their team to the NBA Finals. This is something you want to build around. You just don't want to throw it away right now for maybe 2 MVP seasons of KD that don't guarantee you a Finals appearance. You know, take what you have in Jaylen Brown, continue to build in that, because, like I said, a lot of teams would kill for what Boston has right now. And if they just throw it away now just for the immediate success or just the glitz and glamour of a Kevin Durant having one of the top 5 players in the league, sure, that brings people into the arena, but ultimately you want long, sustained success. You don't just want 2 years of glory, potential glory. So I don't know. I'm not with it. I think Boston is a little crazy, and partially I think that kind of fractures the relationship between Jaylen Brown and the front office, because this guy thinks that he's in there for the long haul, and now he's going to be a free agent in about 2 years.
Unrestricted, by the way, my man.
Okay.
Not restricted.
He's going to remember this. He's going to remember this. He can go out there and prove that he's better elsewhere, that he can lead a team, or maybe he stays put with Jason Tatum in Boston. But I'm sure his feelings are hurt a little bit.
So I want to jump right off that. So I did hear a report. I think Shams is the one who initially reported it, right? He said the trade offer. This was the trade offer that happened. But a little bit after that, I don't know if it was a day or two or the same day. Adrian Wojnarowski said a piece on this, and he said that this trade is actually like old. Like this is an old trade. So he's projecting it. He thinks it was around like early July. You know what I mean? Like right when the trades were allowed to happen. So the front office has been sitting on this for a month. They've known this, and Jaylen hasn't heard anything about that. I mean, we just go back to earlier this year in January, early January, people were talking, and I got to admit, I was one of them because I didn't see that I didn't see them playing together as a tandem that well. I didn't see it meshing that well, not just this season, but it's seasons prior. They didn't they weren't they should be a number one seed easily every season, and for them not to, because I mean, just look at the talent that they have on that team. That they're built for the regular season with the depth that they have, and they've got the elite defense and elite offense from multiple positions. They've got the veteran back that they never should have traded in Al Horford to begin with. It's not a coincidence that when they got Al Horford back, they started making those runs again. So I look at it, and then we get a tweet from Jaylen Brown like an hour or two right after the report came out saying, tweeted just SMH, shake my head. Like, so he thought they made this great run from January on. Nobody saw this coming to all the way to the NBA finals. They figured it out. Udoka had a lot to do with that, I would imagine. You know, putting everything together and having everything mesh together well. And I guess Jaylen was probably thinking in his head, all right, we're here for the long haul. We're ready to take that next step now. Now we're going to be contenders each and every year, like legitimate contenders each and every year. And now to find out that a couple weeks after that NBA finals, guess what, Jaylen? You were getting put into a trade package for Kevin Durant. So I think that's very highly disrespectful from the Boston Celtics front office that they would even entertain this. Like I know it's KD, and every team wants a KD. There's 30 teams that want KD, and I'm including the Brooklyn Nets. They want KD, but getting rid of Jaylen Brown and messing with that unit, and you're not just getting rid of Jaylen Brown, you're getting rid of Derek White, you're getting rid of Grant Williams or Robert Williams, depending on which one the Nets would want. You're getting rid of a Marcus Smart, you're getting rid of a bunch of picks. You're getting rid of a lot of your depth and your talent that have worked together over these years and gained a level of comfortability with each other. And that's what it's all about. I mean, look at the Golden State Warriors. That core unit has really stayed together. And it's hard to build new rapport with new teammates year in and year out. I mean, you look at all the super teams that have ever been created. Usually that first year they struggle. You look at the Miami Heat, you look at the Boston Celtics. Not much with the Warriors because that team was just stupid stacked. I mean,
The
73
Nets.
and yeah, the Nets 73 the Warriors were 73-9, and all they did was basically take Harrison Barnes out and plug into Kevin Durant. You're going to be pretty much a lot better when you do that. So, and just to jump off the last thing Justin said about Jaylen Brown, I'm a big believer in Jaylen Brown too. I think when we first started this podcast slash show, I said there were moments in this playoff where I was like, I turned my head a little bit. I was like, are we sure Jason Tatum is the guy and it's not Jaylen Brown? Now both of them had their struggles in the finals. Jason Tatum didn't play up to his standards, and Jaylen Brown was loosey goosey with the basketball all series long.
All postseason, honestly.
All postseason too. I mean, I think they were 1 and 2 in turnovers throughout that entire postseason run.
Yeah.
So just to finish it up, I mean, I believe Jaylen Brown can be a number one on a team. I truly believe that. And the Boston Celtics are playing with fire here. putting him in that trade offer and hoping that he forgives and forgets in 2 years and stays. But, you know, grudges hold deep, and if he doesn't like that and he goes and says, "You know what? In 2 years, I'm gonna go see and be the leader of a team in my for my own."
You almost said Miami right there, didn't you? Yeah.
Uh, well, no, I am thinking Miami because he would be a great addition to Miami as the guy. I really do believe Jaylen Brown can be. He's got all there's real. I mean, I guess he got exposed a little bit with his handles this postseason, and that could use a lot of work. But everywhere else, I mean, the guy can hit 3-pointers at a high rate. He can hit the mid range. He can finish in um under the hoop. He can drive on anybody in the league. Defensively, he's one of the best. There's really not that much of a weakness in Jaylen Brown's game, so he's not afraid to make and take big shots. So I would love him on Miami, but that's 2 years down the line, so I'm not even worried about that. If you really were to ask me, like, make a choice, I would say Jaylen Brown stays because if his contract was up this year, I would say, okay, now it's really talking. Like, I think he might consider it, like, going through this whole season disgruntled, like like just looking at the front office side eye and being like, you guys really wanted to get rid of me, huh? So I might leave. But since it's 2 years, I think he more than likely stays.
I don't blame Boston at all for checking in on KD, but the second Jaylen Brown gets involved, I'm hanging up the phone. I mean, I'd be trying to call KD to play for my staff basketball team. Anybody should be calling him, calling the Brooklyn Nets to see what it would take to acquire him. But for Boston's case, the second Jaylen Brown was in, hang up the phone. If you're going to try and get KD, you want to bring the three of them together. You want that trio. Imagine KD, Tatum, and Jaylen Brown on the same team. Jesus Christ. It's probably definitely not possible, but
No, that's not.
it's definitely not possible. But honestly, think about it. That might be the best offer that Brooklyn can get.
It's up there. I would say, and for all these teams that have been trying to get him, the Phoenix Suns, the Miami Heat, whoever else has made an offer, it's hard when you're like, I mean, KD said he wants to play with Chris Paul and Devin Booker in Phoenix, and he wants to play with Kyle Lowry, Bam, and Jimmy in South Beach. How are you gonna? It's gonna be almost impossible for Brooklyn to be like, okay, yeah, we'll take less than the market value for KD and just send him to Miami without getting a Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, or a Bam Adebayo in that deal. Or in Phoenix's case, not getting a Chris Paul or a Devin Booker in that deal. Like they would look at it and be like, so wait, you get your whole unit that you want, but we don't get what we want in return. That's not fair at all. Um, and every team should be lining up to get KD. It's just like I said, since that Minnesota really messed up the whole freaking trade market this year and made that terrible offer. I know some people like it. I think John liked that deal. I think it was a terrible trade. I mean, you gave up way too much for Rudy Gobert. I mean, just look at it this right now. Not every team wants a Rudy Gobert. Every team wants a KD. And you gave up a king's ransom to get Rudy Gobert. That was just not a smart decision in my book. And last point, their best offer they can get. There's been some talks. I know when I watch First Take in the morning, usually, and Mad Dog Russo's on. He was the first one that I heard say the New Orleans Pelicans could make a good offer. Like, could you imagine a CJ McCollum and a Zion Williamson with KD? They're going to be a legit contender in the West if that's the case.
In KD's first free agency go round, I had him pinned for the Boston Celtics or the Washington Wizards, but I wanted to know who was on those Boston Celtics teams. I'm trying to remember. Was that Kyrie and Jason Tatum in them?
So that was Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder. Then their big men were Kelly Olynyk, Jonas Jerebko. I think that was his first name. Those Celtics teams are kind of the little engine that could have IT man in the helm. One thing I'll say to y'all is, you talked about before, Brandon, Jaylen Brown, how you think he's a number one option.
Can be a number one option.
I think the scoring package is there. He's one of the best on-ball defenders. But I don't think people quite realize the responsibility and the task that necessarily comes with that. He was the Celtics' best player in the finals, but at large, that was due to Jason Tatum. Remember last postseason, Jaylen Brown did not play. Jason Tatum was going to battle at the Nets in the first round. That was a 5-game series. He goes to the Olympics right after. He has a shorter offseason. He then is top 5 in the NBA in the regular season minutes played. He's probably top 1 because he led the NBA in minutes during the postseason as well. So I feel like the wear and tear, the 100 games Jason Tatum played regular and postseason combined, that is why Jaylen Brown looked better. And I think if you put him in a place like Brooklyn, they would be very competitive. They'd be a lot of fun to watch because Jaylen Brown could sell tickets. And heck, I think if he's getting 23 shots a game, he can put up at least 28 just like Tatum. But I don't think he can necessarily carry a team the same way because I think Tatum is a more well rounded player. He's a better off ball defender. He's a little bit of a better playmaker and passer. I think when it comes to getting to the rim, while he lacks some of the athleticism and that juice Brown has in terms of burst, at the same time, he has the better handle. He has better moves in terms of spins and footwork, that sort of stuff, I think kind of makes up for that. Now, there's another thing you talked about before. They should be the number 1 seed every year. I think with this Kevin Durant trade, while you're sacrificing a piece of depth or two, the Celtics can't afford that because they have quality depth, but they don't have a lot of depth. And there's a big difference there. There's 7 guys deep, and you can trust those 7 guys. But once it gets to number 8, Payton Pritchard, you can't always trust him. And so I feel like if I'm the Celtics, not only am I not doing this trade as the initial offer,
I would just say just to not going into this year because they made the deal for Malcolm Brogdon and they brought in Danilo Gallinari. So they can go 8 deep now. That would be their 8th man would be Gallinari. I think after that would be probably oh no, actually it would probably be Grant Williams. Yeah, so their bench would probably be depending on where Malcolm Brogdon goes, either Brogdon or Smart, Derek White, Gallinari, and then Grant Williams. So I think right now, yeah, 9 deep. They could go 9 deep now. I would give you that for last season and seasons prior, but this season coming up, they have the quality depth and the depth.
Gallo is a one-way player, though. I think in the postseason there will be series where he can't be on the floor. You look at a team like maybe not Philadelphia because you can throw him on Tobias Harris, but I look at maybe Giannis in Milwaukee. Those backup center minutes he can't really play, and I think I can give you good shooting and size in the regular season. I'm talking about in the postseason. Is that guy you can trust on? And we haven't necessarily seen that in Atlanta outside of when he got to be thrown onto Ben Simmons. That's neither here nor there. I think for the Celtics, the Nets then wanted Marcus Smart. I'm surprised they didn't want Time Lord and Jaylen Brown. I guess that's because Sean Marks knew if I even asked her this, Brad Stevens is hanging up the phone because that's, to me, in my opinion, the Celtics' second and third best players. I think Kevin Durant's really good, but he's turning 34 years old. And to me, while his game can age well, when you just look at the injuries, I don't see his prime lasting more than 2 years. And you can talk about them being number 1 seed every year, Jaylen Brown. You almost can't with Kevin Durant. He's not giving you any more than 55 games. I'm not going to overreact to this too much. I did initially because I think Jaylen Brown will remember that the team was willing to move him in 2 years. And if he feels a certain type of way, maybe his relationship then is not as strong as it is now with Ime Udoka. Maybe they have 2 tough playoff exits and him and Jason Tatum aren't as close as they are currently. There is a world where the Celtics can be concerned that Jaylen Brown, this is just me speculating, will leave in 2 years. And I think that's part of why they're willing to even loosely toss him into this discussion. They're not entirely sure that he's going to extend and be here for the next 4 to 6 seasons. We're going to get the entire prime of JB.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think the problem is with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown having an issue with each other because Jason Tatum did come out after the reports came out. He said he was interviewed or something, and he basically said to paraphrase, like I love the team that we have, and he's supposed to say that he's always been good with the media. He's not going to say anything to get himself in trouble or to mess with the team chemistry or anything like that. So I think they're going to be fine. I mean, naturally, they're both going to have this good competitive like energy between each other because they are the 2 best players on the team, and they're probably just looking at each other like a good sportsmanship competition where they're like, no, I want to show you anything you can do, I can do better type thing, but in a good way because they're trying to one up each other a little bit, and that's with like any 2 great players or 3 great players on the team. They all look at each other and they're like, okay, I want to be the guy. So And I think this year they both accepted their roles on the team, and that's all about Ime Udoka getting them to buy into the team. So I think their relationship and friendship is going to be fine. Jaylen Brown in the front office, though, that's gonna we're gonna have to wait and see what how Jaylen Brown really feels about that. I mean, he sent out a tweet, but that's initial reaction. Obviously, initial reaction. If you see like, oh, this team that I poured my heart and soul into, and come to find out that they were willing to get rid of me. And it doesn't even matter if it was for KD. Jaylen Brown's not going to look at it that way, like, oh, KD's better than me. He's going to look at it. Go ahead, Justin.
But I feel like it kind of hurts a little bit more, being that he can be like, "Yo, I just bounced this guy from the playoffs."
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, 4-0. Yeah, they just did. And no, he's gonna that's what I'm saying. He's gonna feel some type of way about it, but he's not gonna look at it and be like, oh, KD's better than me. He's gonna be like, I can do just as much as KD does on this Boston Celtics team. Like we work together. We've proven that we can do it now. We proved it.
You want to
So
trade me and stuff for this old head who can't even win a damn playoff game?
that's exactly it. I mean, they got swept this postseason. KD's got that on his resume now. That's not a good thing to have. And yeah, you can make the excuses. Oh, Ben Simmons wasn't there, or this, that, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you had Kyrie for the whole series. I'm pretty sure, right? Yeah, the mandate was
Yep,
lifted by then.
they had more than enough to win at
Yeah,
least 2 games that
the
series.
2 games. Like you got like when I think about all the time when Stephen A brings this up with the not Isaiah Thomas, Allen Iverson back in 2001 against the Lakers. He always said that there's no way in hell that AI and the Sixers are gonna beat the Lakers, right? But guess what? AI will get you one. He'll get you one. And what did he do? He got him that one. Just don't get swept. That's pride in an NBA player. You're one of the best. Show it. That's why a little bit I look at it. Yes, LeBron was overmatched in that 07, 08 finals, whichever one it was. But you expected, like you were like, they're not going to win, but LeBron is one of the greatest players of all time. Get us one, man, in Cleveland. Just get us one win. So and you go to this year with KD, like KD, you had Kyrie next to you. LeBron didn't have a guy on Kyrie's level back in those days. AI didn't have a guy on that level back in those days. You couldn't get us one, my guy. One.
It's true.
Now, briefly, I just want to say, Kevin Durant, would he be better than in Boston than on the Nets playing Kyrie Irving?
Would KD be better in Boston
With Jason Tatum?
with Jason Tatum than
Absolutely.
Kyrie?
Yeah. For me, the answer is absolutely.
Yeah.
I'd say
Because
so.
I really do think the relationship is a little bit torn between Kyrie and KD now. There's not many reports on it, but I just there's no way KD doesn't feel some type of way about how Kyrie has handled these years with Brooklyn. There's no way, man. He's
You
the
can't
one
trust
who
him.
talked, huh?
You can't trust him.
He can't trust him, and he did trust him in the beginning. He's the one. He followed Kyrie to Brooklyn. He said, "Kyrie, you tell us. You want to go to New York Knicks or you want to go to Brooklyn?" Oh, I want to go to Brooklyn. And I do want to say this was a long time ago when I said the Knicks were Kyrie's favorite team, and John corrected me and said it was Brooklyn. It was Brooklyn. I apologize for that, but so he was like, yeah, let's go to Brooklyn and my hometown team, they're my childhood team. Let's go to Brooklyn and do that. He followed you there, man. And then what did you do in those years succeeding that? You didn't succeed. You sat this whole season. Okay, you don't want to get the vaccine. I understand that. Trust me, I understand that. A lot of people had to get it that didn't want to get it. Okay, a lot of people. You think the whole NBA entire league wanted to get a lot of them wanted to get that vaccine? Probably not, but they did it to sacrifice for that team. Look at Andrew Wiggins. He's a perfect example. He didn't want to get it. Maybe he was a little bit forced into getting it, and he still talks today that he doesn't feel right about getting it because it's just his belief that he doesn't like that type of stuff. But he got it and sacrificed for the team, the better of the team. He took one for the team. He said, you know what? We are a championship caliber team. We're a better team when I'm on it. I'm going to take this one for the team. And Kyrie decided not to take that for the team. Okay. KD can't feel that type of way. A couple months into the season, he takes 2 weeks off without any explanation. KD, you cannot not feel some type of way about that. No communication whatsoever. And even go to back to the bubble. Kyrie was talking, he was saying nobody should show up for the bubble. Nobody, just don't show up. And he knew, and I heard this from Stephen A, I believe. He said, Kyrie knew that if nobody shows up, guess what? There's a clause in the CBA or something that says if you guys don't do this or whatever, all your contracts are null and void. Nobody's getting paid. And he didn't talk to, I believe CP3 at the time was the head of the Players Association or whatever. He didn't have a conversation with CP while he was doing that. Kyrie does what he wants, and I don't understand how these players don't feel some type of way off the field. Like on the court, off the court. On the court, yeah, you want Kyrie on your team, right? Because he's a superstar talent. He's got the deepest bag in NBA and possibly in NBA history. But off the court, can you trust the guy? He's not showing you anything. The only person who's been able to get a consistent couple of years out of him was who? LeBron.
As Goran Dragic said, every day there is something different, something difficult after their prompt exit in the playoffs. So we got to talk a lot there ad nauseum about Kyrie, the Boston Celtics. Now we're discussing a topic that 2.5 months ago I didn't expect to be discussing on a podcast. The Charlotte Hornets, they've been fun. They've had LaMelo Ball. He's brought excitement to a franchise that's lacked a franchise player since Kemba left, and even then he was not a game changer in the postseason. Miles Bridges promptly develops right along with him, and they got this good connection between these two young players, and the future seems to be going to a good, positive direction in Charlotte. It feels like this can be the most success the franchise has ever had. And most importantly, the fans are all into it. They get smoked in last year's play-in, though. Against the Pacers, it was embarrassing. Blown out from the start. Come again this season. They're a 500 team. They're very mediocre, but they're very fun. It's kind of funhouse mirrors. Then, again, the play-in tournament. They get absolutely smoked by the Hawks. And after, Miles Bridges gets ejected, and he just takes his mouthpiece, and he heaves it into the crowd at a fan. And he actually ended up hitting a girl that he wasn't aiming at. And I was like, what is wrong with this guy? But then in the post-game interview, he collects himself, he's calm, and he basically accepts full responsibility, and he apologizes in the most appropriate fashion for a 23-year-old. I almost made a YouTube video talking about how impressed I was. He did something really stupid. It was embarrassing. It just goes on top of the fact the Hornets for 2 straight years were 40 clipped. And you know how hard it is to get clipped by 40 in back-to-back years in the play-in? It is. The Pacers and the Hawks are not world beaters. It's one thing that this is the best team in the NBA. It's a completely different thing. This is another one of the most mid teams. Coach gets fired. They hire Kenny Atkinson. Then Kenny Atkinson, a few days after he wins the championship, says, okay, I'm actually not going to come to Charlotte. So then they panic hire Steve Clifford. And days before free agency, Miles Bridges is due for a contract extension. One of the best players in the 2018 draft class. Awesome player, Michigan State player, Jaren Jackson, lottery pick, good player. And then I made a TikTok the day before about where he would go in free agency, talking about the Detroit Pistons. But sometimes in sports, when an athlete takes it so far beyond the basketball court, no matter how gruesome, unrelated basketball it may be, it must be discussed. His wife of 2 children, Michelle Johnson, would later post to Instagram showing absolutely gruesome images, bruises, cuts, scars, not scars. She was hospitalized after Miles Bridges allegedly physically assaulted her just a day before he was about to receive life-changing money that would literally set his family up for generations to come. And when those reports came out and I saw the images, I was disgusted, obviously, because literally hours before I scheduled a TikTok video talking about his free agency and what he would be able to do on his next contract. And ultimately, none of that matters, in my opinion. Just as a human being, you look at an NBA player, like I said before, so much of it is, can you perform? But at the same time, you're not just a performer, you're not just an athlete, but you're a role model. You are an image for not just an NBA franchise, but companies that are sponsoring these teams. They're putting money and funding them. Fans that are buying jerseys. Parents that are buying their kids Christmas jerseys. And I look at Miles Bridges and I say to myself, as an employee of an organization, is he allowed to then get life-changing money after just days before he was, like I just said, allegedly, want to be careful of my words here, being charged with 2 counts of child abuse under circumstances or conditions that cause great bodily injury or death. That second part was not included, with Michelle Johnson coming on Instagram and showing terrible pictures of what Miles is allegedly being charged with. When I saw the second layer of that, I was done. I'm done. Miles Bridges, phenomenal young basketball player, and quite frankly, I don't care at all. I mean, this is so disgusting. And I look at his past behavior on the basketball court, and as somebody that talks about basketball on the regular, they love the sport. This is not just traumatic and visceral. This is shameful. Days before life-changing money that sets up generations to do not just a careless act, but something so damaging and disgusting. This is the most vile thing I've ever seen in my 19 years on planet Earth in the pro sports world. Never have I heard something this bad. There have been cases of domestic violence. I think it was Lance Stevenson pushing his girlfriend or his wife down the stairs in 2010. The Charlotte Hornets had another player as well back in 2014, Jeff Taylor, who was also charged with domestic violence as well. This right here for Hornets franchise is looking for maturity and leaders. All of a sudden, they're interested in re-signing their former franchise player in Kemba Walker. I say to myself, for a pro athlete that's a model and representative for media conglomerates, Miles Bridges should never play NBA basketball again, because this situation will never get better. And here's the worst part about it. The Hornets have not dropped his qualifying offer so they can keep him. It's a business. You're trying to do what's best for your team. If they keep him, they're going to get berated by NBA fans. The amount of hate, the amount of jokes, the amount of negative attention, it's going to be all over them. Now, I don't want to compare this to football, but a comparison to what I'm about to get into is Kareem Hunt, former Pro Bowl running back for the Chiefs. He kicked a woman or his girlfriend at a hotel, and it was nowhere near the level of this by any stretch of the imagination, these allegations. And the Chiefs release him, a Pro Bowl running back, and go into just his 3rd season. Then he gets suspended 8 games. The Browns pick him up scotch-free. No one's talking about how terrible Cleveland is for bringing this guy in. It's a much less serious situation, but the point being, for the Hornets, if they let this guy go and the Pistons then pick him up, they're going to get much less heat than the Hornets had they have kept him, because we're going to feel like, oh, he served this punishment, blah, blah, blah. No. If you are representing media organizations and fan bases with children that are watching this stuff, it goes so much beyond being a performer and an awesome player. If he's doing this reckless act, this hideous act, to be sure, this is a completely different person than I thought who he was when he was drafted 4 years ago. He's doing this at 24 years old. I can't imagine all the stuff we don't know. If any of this, which I believe, I mean, from what I've seen, I don't think this guy should play again, just because of the fact this is a much different human being than I thought I was watching when he was on the basketball court. It's sickening. Absolutely vile. And I'm done with this guy. Absolutely.
I think one of the saddest things about, this whole story, and it happens so much over all sports platforms, is that these players are so young. This guy's now, I think, 24 years old. That's how old I am. And playing professional sports it takes so much sacrifice. It takes so much work. And, you're grinding from, you're probably 10 years old till now, and you're willing to throw it all away because you don't have a better outlet for your frustration. Instead of taking it out on the basketball court or in the gym, taking it out on allegedly, his wife, his kids. It's all shameful. There's really not much more for me to say. It's just pretty sad, man. We've seen this all over sports. You're so young. Your future's ahead of you. Like you said, days away from generational wealth. You can take care of your family for the rest of your life. That's what so many people strive to do in their careers. Just live comfortably, take care of their family. And rather than taking care of your family, you hurt them in more ways than just financials, you know? So it's pretty despicable. And I'm with you. I don't want to see this guy in an NBA court, man. You don't deserve it. No slap on the wrist, no 20-game suspension. That isn't going to do nothing. NBA needs to come down hard, make an example out of this guy. There's no place for this in sports. There's no place for that in society, period. I don't even want to speak on it. I'm sorry. This is just despicable, man.
So I just want to first say I agree with basically all your guys' sentiments. I'm gonna get at it in a different way where I'm gonna look at it and just hit on it a little bit right at the end where you said the NBA needs to come down hard, right? These in professional sports, actually in general, what would you call them? Celebrities, I guess, in general, just celebrities in general, right? Because professional athletes are celebrities at the end of the day. The tolerance is a lot higher. They and we've seen it across all fields of media, sports, entertainment, whatever. The tolerance is high if you are great at what you do, right? There's the old saying, I don't know it off the top of my head, but basically it's like if your production is like really high, then guess what? The tolerance is going to be just as high or not higher. But once that production starts dropping off, guess what? You're done. And we can look at like an Antonio Brown. The production or not a good example, but you guys get what I'm trying to say though
I
there.
get you.
Mhm.
So I like to take a look at these sports leagues and like I said, in general, entertainment and celebrities and their overseers, I guess you would say. And one thing that really just I hate with a passion is, and we just saw it that we're seeing it this upcoming season. Gambling, gambling is a 1 year suspension. Calvin Ridley just got suspended for the year for gambling because because they believe in protecting the shield, right? The NFL. Roger Goodell, it's protect the shield, integrity of the game. What's the minimum for domestic violence in the NFL suspension? Was it like 6 games?
I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I
it's
guess it would
something around
depend
there.
on whether or not you're charged, mostly.
Yeah, but like, look at this despicable that a guy can gamble and get suspended for a year, but somebody beats their spouse, significant other, or child, and they gone for only half the season or whatever. That makes no sense to me whatsoever. They need to start looking at these suspensions and stuff and get. I mean, you said Kareem Hunt was suspended for 8 games, right? Tom Brady for deflating footballs got suspended for 4 games, half that. Are we going to sit here and really say that deflating footballs is half the punishment of beating your significant other? That no, in no way in hell is that the case. That's stupidity. I just I look at and if you are highly talented and stuff, I hate to say this, but he's probably going to get another opportunity unless he is convicted. But even if he is convicted and he spends time in jail, we've seen it in the past in all sports and entertainment areas. These guys or women come back. They come back. They eventually get themselves back into the fold. We've seen it a lot. We've seen it with Michael Vick. We've seen it with Kareem Hunt. We've seen it with Joe Mixon. We've seen it with these different guys. It they get the leash is very long for these celebrities. It's not fair. It's not fair at all. But life isn't fair. So I just look at it and I do hope that allegedly yes, if the charges are not accepted, if he is convicted, then he shouldn't step on the basketball court again. Now I do want to say because we've uh we've leveled up hard and rightfully so. We've done that, right? And I want to be respectful when I say this, but I think you guys can come around, understand what I'm saying, where it's not forgive this guy or forget what he did, but America is supposed to be the land of second chances. And you're supposed to be able to grow as a human being. Now he has to do that work, obviously, right? I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt, right? Because he doesn't deserve that and he has not earned that right. He's got to do the work. Like I love dogs. I love animals. Michael Vick did something that was horrific, terrible, despicable, and never should have been done. I've come to, I wouldn't say forgive or forget, but I've come to see that he has taken the steps forward to becoming a better person and admitting to his mistakes and taking that right to his own, like saying, I own up to this, I did this. There's no excuses for that. He's donated his money, he's donated his time. He's I think he's bought he has dogs now as pets for his kids and for himself. He's changed. Now this Miles Bridges, if he wants to become if he wants to step back on the basketball court, he's going to have to take these necessary steps to forward to admitting mistake, admitting at fault, if convicted, to show that you can become a better person and you deserve and have earned a second chance. Because right now you have not.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. You definitely have to earn your second chances. It's like I remember a long time ago, I believe it was Tim Tebow. He said in reference to one of his old teammates, he said, I love the player, I hate the sin. You know, you hate the action. So he has to do a lot to earn his way back onto the court. We don't know what's going to happen in the next month or so with his next court hearing, but ultimately, I think I speak for all of us. Our thoughts and our prayers are with his wife and his kids. That's the one thing that gets me there. It's just like the second you get to kids, I'm a person, I work with children. I spend Monday through Friday, sometimes my Saturdays, and I spend them with kids. And I can't imagine any one of my little ones being in a situation like that where they're having to deal with any sort of trauma. I protect them with my life, and I love them like they're my own. So just even his kids, just thinking of them as my own, it just tears me up. So that's why I'm a little hard on him when I say I don't want to see the guy in the court again. Um, Second kids get involved, that's when you start crossing lines with me, you know. So that's where I'm at.
I'm in complete agreement. And the Tebow quote I forgot about. You made me smile there. If I could say anything, I just feel like this is so much more than a sin. I just feel like it's so damaging, the emotional and not just the physical, but the emotional toll for a child to experience that impacts lives in ways that I feel like Miles Bridges at this point in his life won't even be able to comprehend. And that's why I'm so hard on him. It is the exact emotional toll, 20 years now for his children that I say to myself, that is the thing that's so damaging that it should be come down upon with a hard fist because it's horrific. But as you said, you love the player, but you absolutely hate the sin. To me, it's so much more than a sin. So, that was hard. So I'm fortunate to say I feel like we did a pretty solid job there. That's my first time talking about it, frankly. I made a little TikTok video. I didn't want to check the comments. I don't care what other people are saying. That's how I feel. Um, Now, fortunately, we're allowed to talk about basketball now. Now that is over. Not that it's over, but for us, we're done talking about it.
Yeah.
Draymond Green recently he's got his own podcast. He's in the media. One thing that's really been the biggest news over the last few days is Draymond is seeking a max contract for 4 years, well over $100 million. Currently, he's making around $25 million a year. The upcoming contract to be over 32, around 33. Probably be backloaded, so he's getting more and more in the back end of that deal. And the Warriors don't want to give it to him. They're saying we got this young core that we're going to develop and continue to grow, but we're taking this year by year with a player like you because you're older. You're 32 years old. Even if you just want a championship, we're not trying to oversell because the way they built this dynasty was off of terrific contracts. Steph was underpaid. Draymond was underpaid. That's how they got Kevin Durant when the cap spiked. And so for Joe Lacob, they print money with their arena. It's their own arena. It's their own local ATM. He's saying to himself, I'm not willing to give you this contract, but we're going to take this on a year by year approach. My question to you guys is, to me, I have a very definitive answer. Justin, is Draymond Green, who's already, let me check, I just want to make sure he's 32 years old, worth the max contract for over 4 years he seeks?
And that's a tough one. So I've thought about it because the second you think about a max player in the offensive league, you're thinking of somebody that's giving you 20, 25 points a night, somebody that can carry the freight on the offensive side. Um, but I guess Draymond might be the outlier here. Call me crazy, and I know I'm pretty sure I know what Brandon's take is here, hearing his Klay Thompson and Draymond debates. But Draymond, yeah, like I said, he's the outlier. His impact to the Warriors' success is immeasurable. This is a dynasty, and without him, they're not one. So he'll give you guys a defensive masterclass. He's an anchor on the team, and I think he deserves to be paid like one. Sure, he's done everything that he can. He's done everything asked of him. He's taken pay cuts for Kevin Durant. The guy's a warrior through and through, and yeah, I have no doubt that I think the Warriors will end up eventually giving him the max. That's not somebody you want to let walk. Warriors aren't the same team without him. We've seen that already. So I could see him, if not this summer, maybe the next.
Do you know what the Warriors' record was this last season, the 36 regular season games he missed?
What?
19 and 17. And the crazy thing for me, is Draymond Green worth a max contract? Absolutely, and it's not even a discussion. When looking at what he brings to the Warriors on the court, just there, they got to the greatest defensive start of any team in NBA history this last season in defensive rating. And when you looked at the Defensive Player of the Year race, Draymond was not just the favorite, but he was the runner-up by a mile. It was only because of a calf injury that sidelined him for 36 games that he didn't win the award. Even while playing, it was barely under 50, 46. He still made the all-defensive second team. Think about that. He missed almost half the season, and he was still on the all-defense team. In the postseason, he was, as a leader, an aggressor, a veteran with the savvy, absolutely, like you said, immeasurable. But I don't think people realize how valuable Draymond is on the offensive end, because despite contrary belief, Draymond is a linchpin in the Warriors' offense. To the naked eye, he's not a scorer and he's not a shooter, so therefore he's not skilled. But what fans don't always comprehend is when we look at a big man that can handle, pass to the very best players in the NBA, is savvy, has all the veteran tricks and pick and roll, handling the ball in the open court, he can play point guard, and that allows Steph Curry to be the off-ball force that he is because he doesn't have to take the ball up the court. Defenses, they can't necessarily always double team him because you're not going to double team Draymond. If you do, you're leaving one of Steph, Klay Thompson, Jordan Poole, or Andrew Wiggins open. That won't really go too well against the Warriors offense when you have one of the greatest playmakers in the front court who's taking the ball up the court. And when you look at a big that can handle, he can run a pick and roll himself. He is one of the greatest passers of all time, rolling to the rim. That amplifies not just Steph Curry's ability, but the legs of Klay Thompson, Kevin Looney. All those players are better, not just because of Steph Curry, but the ways that Draymond can elevate his teammates on the offensive ends, because his skill set is unique and it's also incredibly valuable to any team. And on this Golden State squad, I think it is invaluable. And without it, their title window is not only absolutely shut, but if you're trying to develop these young guys and you want to instill this toughness that he brings, without him, you're losing all of that, and the integrity of this core will be broken.
I'd say my only worry before you go, Brandon, is just the age. That's real. Long term, then you start to question it. But he's what, 32 at the moment, about to turn 33. So the contract ends when he's 36, 37. That's a long time. He's going to be an old soul by that time. So
Don't you
that's
think
the
his
only.
game?
But
Don't you think his game would age better than most?
that's definitely possible. I mean, as long as he's healthy. That's why I don't feel like I don't know. That's the only thing that's skeptical to me. It's just his age. But like I told you, I do think he's a max player in the Warrior system, at least.
Uh, just to jump off, John, do you have how much he would be getting paid yearly for that max contract?
I'll pull it up in a brief moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe it was 4 years, 130.
33. I want to make sure it's 4 years, 133, which would be
Okay. Yeah. So before you get that, I mean, I I agree. And when we talked about this before, I said Draymond's a Draymond's invaluable to this Warriors team. I give them all. It's similar to when people have the debate Brady or Belichick. I say yes, both would be successful on their own, but together they created this dynasty, and that's what I'm talking about. So with this Warriors, Steph would be great in his own. Clay would be great on another team. Draymond would be able to fit in with other teams, but together they mix so well, and that's what creates this dynasty for them. Uh, so I mean, yeah, we're the offensive league, and you look at his numbers, and you say, the shooting has definitely fallen off. Nobody can debate that. The numbers don't lie there. The numbers have just fallen off a lot. But he still gives you high rebounds. He still gives you high assists. He's a menace. Would say he's a disturber. He likes to get in players' heads. He likes to cause trouble there. And he did make some big shots. I think in either one or two games in the finals, right? He was hitting those big shots. So I mean, they're gonna give it. I believe they're gonna give it to him. Yes, yes. If we really got to the nitty gritty, and you asked me, do I think he deserves Do you have the numbers, Sean, in front of you?
This is going to blow you away.
Okay.
So the Warriors' tax bill this last season was the biggest in NBA history. It's no surprise. Thompson, he's going to be making $43 million in a few years. You got Wiggins on the max, Draymond on the max, Steph on the max. Listen to this. So let's say you give Andrew Wiggins his extension. That would start at $33 million. You then give Jordan Poole his rookie extension and Draymond Green a max extension, which would start at $30.9 million. Their tax bill for the 2024 season, it's not this coming year, but the next one, 2023-24, would be over $500 million. Half a billion for one season. And Joe Lacob, their owner, has talked about, look, we're going to spend a lot of money on the tax because we literally print money with our own arena that we own. But that number is so large. The Warriors are so deep in the repeater tax. The way it works in the NBA is that roster, the total payroll will be $222 million. The tax line is $161. So they're $61 million over the tax line. They're so far deep into the luxury that basically, once I forgot the exact number, you're going to be taxed more and more for every dollar that you spend. I had this in my notes somewhere. And so they're being taxed so much for every dollar they spend. And for every year they stay in the luxury tax, that number is so astronomical. No franchise would even think about paying that. For Joe Lacob, people look at it and say, oh, dude, come on, just pay it. But I mean, this is a guy who's investing so much into a player in Draymond, who he's saying is not necessarily worth all of this money and this big of an investment because we've already got 4 titles. And realistically, in 3 years, their title window will be closed shut. The perspective I come from is, as a mentor, as a veteran presence, Draymond has the intelligence, the toughness, and the savvy that his game can age moderately well, and he can still be one of the best defenders and one of the most important offensive players. When Steph, though, starts to regress, I don't know when, because his work ethic is unmatched and he's a one-of-one type player, that is when I really feel Draymond's impact will be less severe. Because like you said, Brandon, he is most valuable in this place. And if I'm the Phoenix Suns, I'm not paying Draymond a max. But in the Warriors system, this is the one place where he truly is a top 30 player because of his ceiling raising ability. I think the floor with him is low if he's, one of your 2 best players and you put him in Sacramento. You put him over here in the Bay, though, it's a completely different story. That number, though, blew me away. $564 million for 1 year in the tax.
So yeah, like I was saying, so he would start out at 30 million.
Yes, and it go up to, I guess it's like 37 over 4
37.
years.
Yeah. So, I mean, this goes to a whole different point with me where I think there's no. And again, I don't want to say Draymond's a mid-level player, but I do think there should be tiers for contracts. Like I don't. I think it's a little skewed right now. I do think. Listen, everybody else. There's one thing that I do disagree with, where it's everybody says professional athletes aren't paid enough, that they deserve more. I come from a different token on that because I just look at it and I say, um, it, listen, man, this is professional sport. Yes, it's insanely tough and it's hard, but this isn't this isn't open heart surgery. Okay, this isn't you're not a doctor under the scope and you got to save somebody's life. All right, it, you guys make astronomical amount of money. Okay, you got when you enter the NBA and you become a good to great player, you have become a part of the one percenters, if we're going to be honest. You're making millions upon millions of dollars, not just on contracts, but in sponsorships. So that goes into a whole different point with me that we can get into another day if you guys want. But yeah, I look at it and I say he's probably going to get the money. 30 to 37 million. It's not insane, especially with the cap probably going to be going up in the next couple of years. So we'll probably look at it in the next couple of years and look at this deal and say, oh, this was a steal for Draymond Green. You know what I mean? Like we usually do with new contracts. Like we look at it for like to switch it to football for a second. Patrick Mahomes, when he got that $500 million contract, right? The $500 million contract from the Chiefs, everybody looked at it and was like, holy cow, what? Whoa. And now we look at it now and we say, well, that was a pretty good bargain, to be honest, to be honest with you.
That entire contract is literally what the Warriors' total bill will be for just next season.
Yeah, which is insane. But it's and another thing that I do want to say is I come from and maybe because I was spoiled, and maybe because Tom Brady is spoiled with having a wife who is paid even more than him, and she's a freaking millionaire on her own front. Not a lot of athletes or whatever are going to have a significant other that's making way more than they are. But I come from the token of with Tom Brady, if you're one of the best players, take less to surround yourself with better talent. And I don't see that a lot in today's NBA or NFL or in professional sports. Everybody's like, I want mines. And that's fine. You know, you worked your ass off to get there, take what's yours, but don't come crying and complaining when your team is not that good then. Okay, because you had the option to take less. What if you get offered a max and you're making 50 million a year, right? And that number is going to go up. What the hell's the difference if you take 40 million?
Ask Russell Wilson how that went for him in Seattle.
Well, it screwed him in the end, right?
Yeah, they couldn't surround him.
But I mean, but you're putting your faith into the front office and the GM and the coaches to surround yourself with the necessary talent. I'm sure Tom Brady looked at Belichick some type of ways sometimes when he was like, yo, I'm taking less. What the hell is this surrounding me right now? But you got to put your faith and your trust into them and hope that your coaches and your front office are good, have good analysts on the on scouting and coaching up players to get the full potential out of them. I come from that token where it's just like take less to surround yourself with better talent. I mean, we see Tom Brady, and not to keep going to NFL, but we see Tom Brady every year getting like, let's be honest, mid-level quarterback pay. Like this guy is nowhere near the top in highest paid quarterbacks, and he's the greatest of all time.
Yeah, like you said, it helps when your wife's making Chris Paul money.
Yeah, but
plays a little role.
But I do. It's listen. I just think players like LeBron has always been. LeBron has always been like, I want all the money, however much it can be. I'm taking that, and I want that, and that's fine. That's where he comes from. That's his prerogative, and that's fine. But don't come in the middle of the that Cleveland Cavaliers season where he says we're top heavy as you know what. Obviously, you're top heavy as you know what. You're paying hella money to you, Kyrie, and Kevin Love. There's no more money to go around. So listen, you gotta take it's a a double-edged sword. You gotta take what you get and you gotta deal with it.
Listen, I'll never get on somebody for wanting the bag. I'm never gonna come at somebody. I don't blame you. Maybe if we were in those shoes, maybe we'd be like, yo, I want my 50 million. I don't want 40. If I could get 50, I'm gonna go after it. But at the same time, you got to understand the consequences that come with it. Look at Aaron Rodgers, how much that guy gets paid. Let's take a look at his receiving core this year.
Basically couldn't pay Devontae because he took all the money.
So we can have a good laugh about that next season. Did you hear his quote, by the way? Not to drift.
No.
The Hall of Fame Alan
Yeah,
Lazard.
yeah. But we'll talk about that on another NFL episode.
What, Johnny didn't hear it?
No, did you say Alan Lazard?
Just say it. Yeah,
he was just like joking, like saying going from one Hall of Famer, Devontae Adams, to another Hall of Famer, and Alan Lazard is gonna. But he was laughing while he said it, so it was like a, tongue in cheek. You do it all the time with your legends and Norris Coles and whatnot.
Yeah, I guess that leads us right into check it up, my friends. One of you two want to kick it off?
Check it.
I don't
Or
have
if you
nothing
have
today.
a non-NBA one, I'll start off. That way we can have the very end of the show be non-basketball stuff for basketball viewers to know, and for the ones interested to hear about maybe MMA or the MLB, they can stick around.
Just gonna say,
Yeah, John, if you want. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
yeah, the trade deadline is coming up, so there'll be plenty of MLB content coming soon.
Yeah, John, if you want to go ahead, because I want to preview the UFC pay-per-view this Saturday. So go right ahead.
All right, sick. I got an NBA trivia.
Oh, trivia. We're coming back to trivia. I have been taking it. Okay.
This player is
do
a
it.
renowned NBA bust that is often forgotten about.
It's a bust.
Former 6th overall pick in 2010. So this was the draft after the team. Oh, I can't say that yet. Okay, so he was drafted by a team in the Western Conference out of Baylor.
Right, give me more.
He's a power forward.
Who is in that? Wait, can you just tell me like maybe the top 2 or 3 players in that draft?
Yeah, so here's some of the other busts in 2010. Evan Turner, Wesley Johnson. Those are the two of the top ones.
Who are like the elite players so I can jog my memory of that draft?
Well, then I'm basically spelling out the draft. I'll give you one. Gordon Hayward is in that class. He was the 9th pick. This guy was taken a few picks before number 6 by the Warriors.
What position? He was a power forward, you said?
Warriors power forward. Not for long.
Oh, he played for the Warriors?
Drafted by the Warriors.
So he didn't play for the Warriors?
He did. It's not for long.
And then he stayed in the Western Conference, though.
No, he did not. His last name rhymes with toe.
Toe?
Toe?
Yeah. Yep. At least the second syllable of his last name does. He's now 35.
Is he still in the league?
No, he's been out for a couple of years.
Dude.
Oh, okay.
he is a very obscure NBA bust. This is a hard one.
This is you said 2010. That's like
DeMarcus Cousins.
I was gonna say John Wall then, right?
Yep. It's not Evan Turner. Let me know when you're ready to give up.
I'm trying to think of who I was playing with in NBA 2K back then.
Oh, man.
He was in the front court. Not for long.
It's like Gordon Hayward.
I got nothing.
Yeah, I'm lost.
I think you guys know this player. He's just such an obscure lottery pick, like I said, that he's largely just buried into the Warriors dynasty as a forgotten bust. You ready to hear it? You giving up?
Yeah.
Ekpe Udo.
Wow.
I remember him. He played a little bit with Milwaukee then.
Yeah, and Utah to end his
Okay,
career. Don't
yeah.
forget those Utah years, my man. Yeah, he was now in the league. He was actually 2011 to 2019, so 8 years, but not exactly your typical 6 overall pick. I got one more. This one's less obscure, but he's another lottery pick from 2005. He's actually one of only 3 Australian players to be taken in the top 2.
Bogut.
Yep, that was so easy. That was so easy. I gave it away for you, my man.
It's the Australian lottery pick. I was like, it's Bogut.
If I said number 1, you would have been like, all right, not Kyrie, not Ben Simmons. Oh, Bogut. Yep.
Bogut.
That's my 2 trivia questions to you. And hey, let's put some respect in Bogut's name. How many NBA players can say they were an all-defensive player, an all-NBA player, an NBA champ, an all-rookie, and black champion? Not many.
And suffered probably the most gruesome injury of all time.
I don't remember. What year is
What?
that?
Bro, I'm gonna have to send you that one.
I know about his injury, but I don't remember like visually. You know.
I would say probably.
That was Milwaukee, right?
Gordon Hayward was.
That was the worst one I think I've ever seen outside
it was-
Spencer Ware.
Yeah, I think it was his.
Paul George's in the Olympics.
Yeah, I love when people had showed that on a YouTube video. I'm like, hey, why are you showing me this video? I've seen several people do that. I'm like, thank you. I really want to see Paul George's leg snap in half. Thank you. Thank you.
I've seen
Hogan broke
much.
his arm against the Suns back in 09, 010. I'm reading about it right now. Amari Stoudemire just shoved him a bit, a light push, and I'm gonna send you that one.
All right.
I've seen so much worse, to be honest with you, in UFC, mixed martial arts.
Yeah.
I mean, recently, right, Chris Weidman is recovering from throwing a leg kick and it getting checked, and his literal leg, the shin part, wrapped around the other
Yeah.
guy's leg.
The worst injury is probably Alex Smith. And that's probably
yeah.
the strangest injury ever. I was sick to my stomach. I felt horrible. That was on the anniversary of Joe Theismann's injury, which is insane. On the same yard line, the same stadium. But I'm rambling now.
That is crazy.
Rambling now.
On the anniversary, like, what are the odds of that? 39 years. Oh, jeez.
Odds would have been insane.
Yeah, this is gruesome.
John's watching it.
Brian, you can go ahead with your MMA topic. By the way.
Okay, yeah.
I'm not gonna show this to the YouTube. Come on.
So yeah, we got a. I guess you'd call it a big pay-per-view this Saturday. UFC 277, Pena versus Nunes, the rematch. 2 title fights on tonight, on Saturday night. I guess I'll just speak on some of the main card fights. First fight of the night, it looks like it's going to be 2 top, I think 5, maybe one of Anthony Smith might be number 6 in the world in the rankings. But basically top 5 light heavyweights going at it, and Magomed Ankalaev and Anthony Lionheart Smith. Possibly the winner is going to be getting the next shot at the light heavyweight title next year. That should be a fun fight. If you would ask me who I'd pick, I love Anthony Smith. He's a great guy, great analyst when he jumps on ESPN breaking down fights. I just think Ankalaev is an absolute beast. He's a Dagestanian, so he's one of those just maulers. So I would have to have him. And right now he's sitting at minus 500 Ankalaev, and Anthony Smith is a plus 380. So I mean, if you I wouldn't be surprised if Anthony Smith won. So if you want to throw something on there, you might get a big dog. Jump into the third fight of the pay-per-view. Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, returns to face Sergey Pavlovich. It's a heavyweight fight. Derek Lewis is a huge fan favorite. Everybody loves him. I love him. He's fighting in his home state of Texas. He's known for, I don't know if you guys have seen the clips on Twitter or Instagram where Joe Rogan's interviewing him in the middle of the octagon. He's like, hey, Derek, why'd you take your shorts off? He's like, my balls are hot. So this guy's known for his quick-wittedness and just funny moments. Derek Lewis is never count him out in a fight. He's got knockout power all the way deep into the fights. I think he might be the knockout king in the UFC right now with the most knockouts in UFC history or UFC heavyweight history, one of the two, maybe both. He's coming off a little bit of a skid right now. I believe he's coming off 1 loss. He's 1-1 in his last 2 fights, both ended by finish. I would say if you're gonna bet on this fight, to bet the under, because these two are gonna swing and bang, and I don't see one of them making it to the decision. And in our co-main event, we've got the former UFC flyweight champion former UFC light flyweight champion Brandon Moreno from Mexico fighting Kai Kara France from New Zealand, I believe, or Australia. I'm not sure. I can't picture that flag right now. They're fighting for the interim flyweight champion. Brandon Moreno has had a trilogy so far with current UFC flyweight champ Davison Figueiredo. They've had insane wars. Their first fight is the greatest men's flyweight fight in UFC history. It was absolutely insane. Their second fight, Brandon Moreno absolutely dominated Figueiredo and finished him, I think, in under 3 rounds. And then they're in their third fight. It was a lot closer. And I believe Brandon Moreno won that fight, but the judges didn't believe that on that night. So, and Figueiredo has not been willing to give him his rematch because of extenuating circumstances to do a fourth fight, which I don't believe has ever happened in UFC history. So Moreno's got to go through Kai Kara France, who's coming off a win streak. Just to name his notable, he's beat Askar Askarov, who was undefeated at the time, I think 15-0, and he knocked out former bantamweight champion, one of my favorite fighters, Cody Garbrandt, in his last two fights. So he's got, but these guys have fought before, so this is a rematch too. Which Brandon Moreno, I believe, won that fight by decision. So it's going to be an interesting fight. I love Brandon Moreno. I think he's a big star in Mexico. He's one of the nicest guys. If you just hear him talk, he's just a super nice guy. Like it's just insane how nice he is and how good he can freaking fight. He fights like a typical Mexican fighter. He doesn't care if he gets hit. He's going to go in there and he's going to try and take your head off. He's got insane speed with his head movement and his hands. So that's a fight to look out for. I would take Brandon Moreno in that fight. And then in our main event, we got the rematch of probably the biggest upset in UFC history. The GOAT, Amanda Nunes, the Lioness, the UFC featherweight champion currently, and the former UFC bantamweight champion, is taking on in a rematch Juliana Pena, who's the current bantamweight champion, who beat her in the last fight and submitted her in the second round. That fight was a little bit interesting. I'm a huge Amanda Nunes fan. I'm just something you'll learn about me over the time is I'm a huge fan of greatness. I just love greatness. It's hard for me not to appreciate greatness when I see it. And Amanda Nunes is on another level. She's the greatest female fighter I've seen so far. I mean, just to name off, she's beaten basically all the major names that you might know in UFC women's history. She beat Valentina Shevchenko twice. She beat Jermaine Durandamine twice. She submitted Misha Tate. She knocked out Ronda Rousey. She knocked out Chris Cyborg. She knocked out Holly Holm. And she just this last fight that they had in December, their first fight was rescheduled from July of last year. Amanda Nunes got COVID, and I think her baby got COVID too, so she had to take time off there. They rescheduled for December of last year. And Amanda Nunes just did a sit-down interview, and she was talking to a ESPN MMA reporter, and she was basically talking about that fight. And when you watch that fight, if you're a Amanda Nunes fan and a hardcore and you've watched Amanda Nunes, she didn't look the same in that fight. It was a different Amanda Nunes. And she talked about how both of her knees were messed up going into that fight, and she didn't want to pull out again because she already had to pull out of the first fight and reschedule, and she didn't want to do it again. She didn't want an interim belt being implemented and then blah blah blah, just extenuating circumstances. So she toughed it up and she took that fight. And you could see that her cardio wasn't the same, her lateral movement wasn't the same. Even though she dropped Juliana Pena twice in that first round, one with a leg kick and one with a straight jab down the middle. I think Juliana Pena, and I've had a lot to say about this fight when they first fought, a lot to say when I was watching it. I think Juliana Pena lucked up. I think she got lucky.
When was the first match?
The first fight was in December 11th of last year.
Okay.
Yeah. So Pena, she talked herself into it. I'm going to be honest, and I can't get inside somebody's head, but if you just asked me, I would say I don't think she truly believed that she was going to beat Amanda Nunes. I think she put a game face on. I think she talked herself into it and she tried to believe it. Because even when she finished Amanda with the submission, she gets up and she didn't react like, holy crap, I just beat the greatest female fighter of all time. I'm the champion. Like if you look at her reaction was just like, wow, it was dead. It was like, what? You realize what you just did, right? Like that was history. And she talked about leading up to that fight that Amanda Nunes was ducking her. Amanda Nunes doesn't duck anybody. I just listed you off the names of the fighters that I know you guys are more casuals with it, but for the hardcores, they understand the level of competition that she beat. She beat all the big names you could think of in MMA women's history. She beat them all. Pena was coming off a 1-fight win streak when she fought Amanda Nunes, and the only reason she got the title shot is because she was the only one left. Amanda had beaten everybody else in the top 5 convincingly. Her fight before her last win, she got submitted by, and I get confused because GDR submitted Juliana Pena, and that was GDR's first submission in her career after 20 professional fights, I believe. I get confused between Muay Thai and kickboxing. I forget which one it is, but she's a stand-up fighter. And she's beating a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt in Juliana Pena by submission. That should not happen. And then you win one fight, and then you get to fight Amanda Nunes because there's nobody left. Nunes wasn't ducking you, Juliana. She was beating all the best players. And she was doing it while defending both her titles, which has never been done before in UFC history. She was a double champ, the first ever double champ to successfully defend both of her titles. And she did it multiple times against the highest level of competition. More in the bantamweight, the featherweight has never been stacked with talent in the women's. I'm excited for this fight. I think Amanda redeems herself. The odds say that they don't believe in Juliana because Amanda's a -270 favorite and Juliana Pena is the +220 favorite. I mean, underdog. So the odd makers are saying you lucked up that night. Amanda Nunes is going to show up. And I do believe Amanda Nunes is going to show up. I think she's going to fight smarter this time. She always fights confident. Even if you look at her last couple of fights, she likes to smile during her fights where she's like, it's like she's smiling at them saying like, you're not on my level. Okay. I'm going to hurt you right now. So I think Amanda Nunes can get a finish. She showed it in the first fight. She dropped her twice, one with a leg kick, like I said, and one with the straight jab down the middle. She's going to fight. I believe she's got a better game plan this time. She's going to fight smarter, more strategically. I don't think she should engage in the ground because her cardio isn't what it is for other talents. She carries a lot of power and a lot of weight. She's the hardest hitting woman in MMA history. She hits like a Mack truck. So, and in the first fight, you'll see when she dropped her with the right hand, she engaged her on the ground, and that she controlled her for the rest of the round, but that's where the energy tank started to drain. And I don't think she should do that this fight. If she knocks her down, let her get her ass back up and continue to beat her on the feet because you are highly capable of doing that, and you're better at that than Juliana Pena. So I think I think she regains her title back, beats Juliana Pena, and reclaims her status as the greatest female fighter of all time.
Yeah, it sounds like the Tom Brady of women's boxing. When you said Sergey, I thought of the guy from Call of Duty, but he's actually 15-1.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, so he's a legitimate fighter. Damn. I haven't really. I think I've seen Anthony Smith and Derek Lewis. I'm pretty sure, but outside of those two, I don't think I've watched any of these fighters.
Yeah, you might have seen Amanda Nunes. Oh, go ahead, Justin.
No, I was saying I've got to get more into the UFC thing. I don't even play the video games anymore because I used to suck at them. So,
yeah, man, I got just to say with the UFC, like it has quickly become probably my favorite sport right now. The energy when you watch a main event fight on a pay-per-view, the energy and for me personally, the nerves and butterflies that go into my stomach when that octagon door closes and the referee says, "You ready to fight? You ready to fight? Let's go." Or even when Bruce Buffer, I don't know if you guys know Bruce Buffer, he's the UFC announcer. He's the best at hyping up any fight. Okay, when he starts saying it's time, I start going, all right, here we go. We ready for this. And I haven't felt that energy since, I'm going to be honest, since Tom Brady left the Patriots and when my Miami Heat are competing for championships. That's when I get that type of energy where I start going, okay, let's go, baby. Let's go. UFC gives me that almost on a weekly and monthly basis. And I love it. And I think you guys would enjoy the sport. I think it's quickly becoming the fastest rising sport in the world right now. I mean, because it's worldwide. It's not just, they're going all over the place. So I believe I love the UFC, man. I love it.
It's definitely very exciting. I think it's more exciting than basketball outside when basketball's got like a minute left and it's a tie game.
Yeah.
And football as well. I think UFC is way more exciting in that manner.
Because every second counts in a UFC fight. There's no taking plays off like in football. okay, coach, I'm tired. I gotta go. I'm gonna sit out a couple plays. No, 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 no. You're not going nowhere in that octagon, buddy. You're not running. I mean, there's places where you can find a rest here and there, but it's very few and far between. So it's constant pace. And I will agree, basketball is much more exciting than football because of the fast-paced nature. And that's why a lot of people gravitate towards basketball too, is because of it's just so fast-paced. The one thing with fighting is that when it starts to become a boring fight, like just standing, somebody's just holding the guy against the cage or woman against the cage or on the ground, and there's no action. Like, listen, a mixed martial arts fight with wrestling, a high wrestling input in there can be exciting if the guys are trying to advance position, work to end the fight, and do all that stuff. But when there's just a guy, laying or woman laying on top of you and not doing much, just light punches to the head, light punches to the body, or whatever. It's just like, if I don't know, you guys know him, Colby Covington. That's how Colby Covington fights, and it's absolutely boring. But I don't expect that in the last three fights of the night for this UFC pay-per-view. I mean, Derek Lewis and Sergey are going to bring it. Moreno and Kai Kara France always bring it. And I think Pena Nunes is going to have a lot of high intensity in that fight. So I expect explosion.
I'll be watching that.
What day?
Saturday night. It is a pretty penny. It's a pay-per-view. So, and they've upped the prices. I think it's 75 or 79.99 for the pay-per-view. But
I'd say I'd watch it, but I've got a playoff game this Saturday. My men's league squad.
It's at night, so main card starts at 10 p.m. But yeah, ESPN has been screwing with their UFC fans with those payments. They just upped the ESPN Plus membership to $9.99 a month. It costs basically and I told John this, it costs basically over $1,000 a year to be a UFC fan if you have all the things included. It's just,
that's too much, man.
It's insane, man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure you could facilitate the third-party streaming services to bump that price.
Yeah.
To zero. That's what I would do. That's what I will do. With that being said, that was episode number 12 of the Wise Guys podcast. Thank you so much for stopping by and staying to the very end. We had a blast, a lot of interesting stuff, a lot of fun stuff, a lot of sad stuff, but we got to talk about it all the emotions. Anything else you guys want to say before we get out of here?
Yeah, guys. For my baseball fans out there, Yankees just got swept by the Mets in a 2-game series. Mets fans are acting like they just won the World Series. They didn't. We're still the best team in baseball. We're still the best team in New York. Just remember it.
Just say, everybody have a great weekend. If you watch the fights, enjoy the fights, hoping for a great night, and stay safe and have fun.
That being said, thank you again, and as always, we'll see you next time.
Stay classy.